Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. It's a full moon and the female protagonist, Mary, is running swiftly through the northern forest, a place known for being the confluence of nature and an extraordinary phenomenon that emerges when the full moon rises. Reaching a certain point, Mary wonders if this is the place she's been searching for. Suddenly, a burst of light, similar to fireless flames, emanates from the depths of the forest. Mary turns around and is astonished by what she sees. According to legend, if the energy of one with witch blood touches this cluster of light, the guardian of the witches will appear. As she watches, a hollow purple circle begins to materialize, and from within, a strange figure emerges, sniffing the air. There's a scent. The figure murmurs. Mary wonders if the fireflies are gathering at this spot. All the fireflies come together, forming a horrifying face. Startled, Mary screams, "What is it?" Suddenly, a cat leaps from the circle in Mary's direction. The cat's appearance is electrifying. It sparks with energy and seems to emanate an ancient power. The cat speaks, calling Mary a descendant of the witches. Mary is stunned and wonders aloud if the cat is the guardian of the witches. The cat, flicking its tail, confirms her suspicions. Overwhelmed, Mary desperately begs the guardian to save her mother. She cries out, pleading for the guardian's help. Before her reincarnation, Mary had been an orphan in her previous life. As an adult, she had worked as a kindergarten teacher, a job she took great pride in despite her hardships. However, her life ended tragically on a stormy day when she was struck by a vehicle. Her last sight was of a pair of black shoes approaching before everything went dark. Mary was then reincarnated into the world of a novel she had read in her previous life, Please Forget About Me. The novel was infamous for the tragic demise of its protagonists, the male lead, Kalen Lloyd Descartes, and the female lead, Yuri Diltern. The story is set in the Purge Empire, a land ruled by sacred power, a divine gift said to come from the gods. Sacred power granted healing, banished malignant energy, and illuminated the path to heaven for humanity. However, the empire rejected all powers other than the sacred, especially the magic of witches, which was considered its complete opposite. Witches wielded diverse abilities, including magic, precognition, illusions, elemental control, and summoning familiars. Despite their strength, they could not withstand the grand witch hunts led by the temple. The witches whispered among themselves in fear, knowing that the pagans had already been eradicated by the temple. They realized they, too, were on the verge of extinction. To preserve their powers, the witches devised a desperate plan. They planted their magical energy into certain objects so that their descendants, those born with dormant witch powers, could awaken them in the future. For Yuri, the protagonist of the novel, her awakening as a witch came unexpectedly when she touched a certain book in the library. Unlike other witches, whose powers developed over generations, Yuri's awakening was immediate. To make matters worse, the child in her womb also bore powerful magic. Sharing one body, both mother and child's magical energy took a toll on Yuri's health. Yuri prioritized her daughter's safety over her own. Knowing they would be discovered by the temple during the child's coming-of-age ceremony, Yuri fled with her loyal maid, Dahlia, erasing all traces of their existence with magic. Yuri gave birth to her daughter, naming her Mary. For Mary, who had never experienced familial love in her past life, her mother's warmth was a treasure. Yuri apologizes to Mary as she didn't wanted her to through such tough ordeal. Mary assures her it's alright because she likes traveling with her mom. Mary loved the novel female protagonist, her mom, who allowed her to experience familial warmth. Desperately avoiding the traps being laid by the temple, she defied the novel's original plot, surviving past the age of 5 when she was supposed to die. By 6, however, her mother's health had deteriorated significantly. Desperate to save her, Mary convinced Yuri to journey north, where they believed the guardian of the ancient witch resided, a rare being that only the most exceptional witches could meet. Mary worked tirelessly to find the guardian. However, by the time she returned with the guardian, it was too late. Her beloved mother had passed away. Dahlia comforted Mary, reassuring her that Yuri had gone to a better place. The guardian, now transformed into a crow, also offered solace, calling Mary the descendant of the witches. Despite the condolences of those around her, Mary couldn't fully mourn. Her mind was consumed by fear and uncertainty. She worried about being discovered by the temple, torn apart and killed. She feared for Dahlia's safety and was overwhelmed by the terrifying and unpredictable future. During Yuri's funeral, Mary's attention was drawn to a man with unkempt hair and cold, dead eyes. At one glance, Mary recognized him. It was Kalen Lloyd Descartes, the male protagonist of the novel. He called out for Yuri, his voice heady with an unreadable emotion. Mary, knowing he is her father, calls him father. Right now, survival was her priority. She wasn't strong enough to protect herself, but she vowed to grow stronger. Once she mastered her witch powers, she would take revenge on the temple for everything they had done to her and her mother. As Mary stood there, trembling, she waited for her father's response. Yuri tells Mary that her father has silver hair, violet eyes, and is incredibly handsome. As they talk, a maid interrupts, saying it is late, and that they should sleep now. Yuri, who loves Mary deeply, tells her that much later. When she meets her father, she has to take good care of him. Mary questions why, pointing out that her father is an adult while she is just a child. Yuri explains that while her father is strong, cool, and handsome, he is also a fool, which is why Mary, who is strong, must protect him. Mary mocks her, saying her father sounds like a cool, strong, and foolish man. Yuri agrees and makes Mary promise to take good care of him. Mary promises, noting that her mother's hands, which used to make pinky promises with her, are now all shriveled up. Perhaps it is because her mother gave birth to her with a weak body and exhausted herself by moving around so much. Mary starts to believe that her mother's death and the forthcoming tragedy involving her father are her fault. After her mother's death, her father, Kalen, becomes entirely focused on Yuri. He stops sleeping and eating, keeping vigil in front of her tomb. Mary begins to worry that her father might drop dead, just like her mother. Kalen is a man who would do anything for the woman he values more than his own life. Cold to others, he is someone who loves deeply. Losing Yuri breaks him, and he becomes a man who could crumble at any moment. Mary realizes now is not the time for her to grieve. She knows she must support her father and keep him from falling apart. Carrying her mother's love and hopes, she understands it is her responsibility to convey this to her father. When Kalen turns to look at her, his expression is strange. He is neither crying nor frowning. Mary clenches her dress and tells him that her mother hates crying. He continues to stare at her with a straight face, which scares her. She runs and hides behind Dahlia, wondering if doing so might make her feel a little less sad. Kalen's expression remains cold and unreadable. While later, Kalen's subordinates come to assist with Yuri's funeral. Mary begins to worry that if things proceed as planned, they will take her mother's tomb to the temple for blessings. But if they do, they will find out that Mary is a witch. Clinging to her father, Mary tells him that he must not take her mother to the temple. Coldly, Kalen asks her why. Mary replies that her mother told her she didn't want the blessings of the gods. Kalen stares at her in disbelief. Dahlia steps forward, confirming Mary's words and explaining that Yuri wished to rest in a quiet place where wildflowers bloom. Without saying a word, Kalen leaves. Dahlia tries to comfort Mary, but Mary calls out to Dahlia, remarking that she can now go to her mom and dad. Dahlia flinches and insists that she will take care of Mary her whole life. Mary thinks that Dahlia must mean she will dedicate her life to looking after her. Rushing to her father, Mary grabs his sleeve and promises that it's okay because she has a father now. Dahlia calls out to Mary again, clearly frightened by Kalen's response. Kalen looks at Mary for a moment, then closes his eyes and finally tells Dahlia that he will take Mary with him. Dahlia is upset and adds that she is confident she can take care of Mary her whole life. Dahlia has always been like family to Mary, and Mary wishes she could stay with her. But she knows she cannot bring Dahlia to a place that could turn into a battlefield at any moment. Before leaving, Dahlia gives Mary a lot of candies, pointing out that this will be the last candy she can give her. Wondering how much she can eat, Mary remembers Dahlia's advice and replies, "1 candy each day and a glass of water after finishing it." Dahlia smiles, praises Mary for being so smart, and wishes for her to stay healthy wherever she goes. Dahlia safely returns home, and Mary sees her off, watching until her carriage disappears from sight. Kalen then calls out to Mary. She looks at him, wondering what he wants. Kalen, unsure himself, admits that this is his first time having a child. Mary looks at him in awe and replies that it is her first time having a father too. Though she feels scared, Mary knows she cannot hide her feelings from him. She is determined to change her father's future. Kalen continues to look at Mary silently. Turning away, Kalen orders his men to secure the area and not let anything dirty come their way. Mary wonders if her father is saying this to her, but 2 knights hidden in the back suddenly appear and comply with Kalen's command. Mary stares at them in disbelief, wondering where on earth they actually came from. She then looks at the carriage and wonders if this is the one she's going to ride in. The stairs to the carriage are high for Mary, and she looks at her father confused. Kalen notices and asks if it's too high. Mary glares at him, remembering how adults used to help children with such things when she was in kindergarten. She sighs, lamenting how, as someone in her 20s mentally, she is sad about being so short. Without warning, Kalen grabs Mary by the back and lifts her into the air, making her scream and choke in surprise. The guardian crow informs Mary that her face has turned red. Mary, struggling, asks Kalen to help her, but he simply holds her up by her collar. She scolds him, saying he can't grab a child like that. Kalen then places her on the ground and questions how he's supposed to carry her. Frustrated, Mary gets annoyed at how clueless he is. Kalen picks her up again, this time holding her by her hands, lifting her as though she's a superhero. Mary feels like her arms are going to fall off. In that moment, she suddenly remembers her mother's words about how her father is strong but a fool. Laughing sarcastically, Mary realizes her mother was absolutely right. The scene shifts to Mary finally inside the carriage. She peeks outside and teleports with the guardian to keep up with it. The crow reassures her not to worry. Meanwhile, her father prompts her to sit back properly and can put her bag aside somewhere. Mary looks around the carriage, amazed at how much bigger it is than her own room. She thinks it could even fit 2 bears inside. Out loud, she tells her father that she's fine, as the bag contains her favorite clothes, which her mother made for her. Smiling, Mary looks fondly at the bag. Her father comments that she looks just like Yuri. Mary wonders if that's true, as Delia used to say the same thing. The atmosphere becomes strange again, and Mary starts to feel confused. She ponders when they will stop to rest. She hopes her father isn't planning to keep moving without taking a break, as her butt has now turned to stone from all the sitting. She looks at him, trying to convey her frustration with her eyes, as if his own butt doesn't hurt from sitting for so long. But Kalen seems clueless about her silent complaint, which makes Mary annoyed at how dense her father is. A knock on the carriage door interrupts them. The knights report that they have something to discuss and ask if they could take a break. Kalen immediately asks if the carriage is broken. The knights clarify that it isn't, but suggest that Mary must be tired from all the traveling. Kalen looks at Mary, who makes puppy eyes at him, and he reluctantly agrees to stop for a break. The rest area is set up quickly. Kalen thanks the coachman for preparing a chair, and Mary bows to him as well. The coachman, surprised, insists that Mary doesn't need to thank him and wishes them both a good rest. Normally, Mary isn't fond of men with mustaches, but the coachman is an exception for her. She sits on the chair and urges her father to sit as well, but he declines, saying he is fine standing. Mary notices the knights looking intimidated by her father. Bored, she hops down from her chair and decides to draw. As she starts drawing, Kalen asks what she's drawing. She replies that it's a moon and a star and explains how they rise together. Kalen, puzzled, asks what she means by rising. Mary explains that her mother taught her to draw this. She recalls how, since they didn't have paper at home, she used to draw on the ground or even on her cheek. Kalen quietly remarks if Yuri really did that. Mary, meanwhile, reflects on how drawing was her only hobby in her past life, apart from reading. Kalen calls out that it's time to leave, and Mary hurriedly tells him to wait for her. He opens his arms, and Mary feels a surge of happiness, thinking her father is about to hug her. But instead, he grabs her with one hand and lifts her up again. Mary is pissed at what kind of father carries his daughter like this. She remembers her mother saying her father was amazing and now questions what in the world her mother ever saw in him. Mary has heard that her father is the best swordsman in the Empire, highly sought after by the Emperor and the Temple. But despite his reputation, Mary knows he doesn't have the slightest idea how to take care of a child. In fact, she knows he's lacking in several areas. Before she can save her father's life, she decides she needs to make him a better man first. When they arrive at the Discard's manor, Mary is in awe of how huge and wide the place is. Kalen places her on the ground and tells her that this will be her home from now on and that it's where she should have been living from the beginning. Mary ponders his words, finding them strangely unsettling for some reason. The manor is more magical and surprising than Mary thought. It is spacious and clean, without a speck of dust. However, Mary notices there are fewer than 10 workers present. For some reason, their eyes are swollen, and they look at her with strange expressions. The employees appear glad that Mary is alive, some even shedding tears, but Mary has no idea why they are looking at her that way. The butler steps forward and points that Mary must be the Duke's daughter. He informs Kalen that he has prepared Mary's room next to his own. The butler introduces himself as Dante, the head butler of Discard's manor. Mary stares at Dante, and he asks if she wants to say something. Mary blandly mentions that she only met her father a few days ago, so she considers herself her mother's daughter. Dante becomes teary-eyed as seeing Mary reminds him of Yuri. Mary remains confused by all the employees' emotional reactions. Dante assures Mary that he will do his best to make her stay comfortable and encourages her to call him Dant. Mary obliges, calling him by his name, and Dante becomes so excited and happy that it nearly scares her. Kalen takes Mary's bag and comments that she doesn't need to be so friendly with Dante, then directs her to her room. Mary thinks to herself that she has no intention of getting close to Dante anyway. They reach Mary's room. She notices flowers hanging on the door and wonders about their significance. Dante informs them that it is Mary's room, with Kalen's room right next to it. Dante opens the door, revealing a room much larger than Mary had expected. Her eyes sparkle with surprise at the sight. Kalen places her bag on the floor and urges her to rest before closing the door, leaving Mary to wonder if he really intends to leave just like that. Mary decides to unpack first. Her bag is full of memories with her mother. 3 dresses her mother had made for her, several old handkerchiefs, a cotton cape, and a cloak fashioned from her mother's coat fur. Outside the room, Dante speaks to Kalen, cautioning him. He points out that, as someone who has assisted Kalen for years, he can tell what Kalen is thinking. However, Dante insists that some things simply cannot be done. Kalen, cold and unyielding, asks why it cannot be done. Dante replies that even if His Majesty does not make a fuss about it, the temple surely will. Mary listens quietly from behind the slightly open door. She recalls reading in a novel that Kalen had scoured the entire continent to find Yuri, ruthlessly killing anyone who lied for the reward or remained silent out of fear. Dante insists that Kalen must come to his senses, pointing out that there is no way to bring back the dead, pointing he is the only persons Mary can now rely on all. Mary plops, knowing it's right what Dante is saying, as if there would have any way she would have tried it herself. He adds that Mary, being only 6 years old, cannot possibly understand the full weight of her mother's death and needs peace. Kalen, his voice cold as ice, orders Dan to shut his mouth. Mary flinches, realizing that her father seems emotionally dead, as his face shows no expression, thinking that it appears as though Kalen is holding back in front of her. Mary decides to complete her unpacking. She grabs one of her mother's dresses. Mary sniffs the dress, saddened that it no longer smells like her mother. She decides to hang the dresses to prevent wrinkles, but the furniture in her room is far too tall for her to reach. She looks around for a stool but finds none. Suddenly, her guardian teleports into the room. Mary dashes toward him, concerned about whether he had a hard time getting there. But the guardian boasts that it was no trouble at all. Mary's eyes sparkle as she gestures excitedly, asking if he can bring her a piece of wood to help her. The guardian crow replies that he can help her find it, but Mary insists he bring it to her since he is her protector. The crow retorts that a protector is not a servant. Frustrated, Mary declares that the guardian crow is just as bad as her father. She whimpers, asking if he will really leave her to struggle. The guardian crow suggests she go eat some cake instead. Losing the argument, Mary relents and asks him to at least tell her where to find the wood. Mary finds the wooden pieces, wondering if this is truly how a protector is supposed to behave. Meanwhile, the maids begin gathering wooden pieces for Mary. When they present them to her, Mary hesitates, saying they didn't need to help her. But the maids, speaking in unison, declare that it is their duty to assist her. Mary is confused by the sudden appearance of so many workers, as she hadn't seen them earlier. The truth is, they had been hiding, waiting for an opportunity to meet Mary. The maids are smitten with how adorable she is and are excited to interact with her. One maid asks what Mary plans to do with the wooden pieces. Mary explains that the furniture in her room is too tall, so she needs the wood to make a stool. The maids scream in shock. Later, they repurpose the wooden pieces into firewood and create a footstool for Mary using a cotton bag. Mary points out that they didn't have to go to such trouble, but the maids gets tearful on how tough her life must have been for her not to ask for help with such things. They urge her to call on them whenever she needs anything, promising to be there before she even realizes it. Mary agrees to do so. Suddenly, someone steps toward them. Dante appears behind Mary like a ninja and calls out to her. Mary turns around, wondering what's wrong. The scene shifts to a table filled with an array of food. Kalen instructs Mary to eat, to which she replies, "Okay." Despite her outward compliance, Mary finds the situation extremely awkward. There are many dishes on the table, but Mary has been eating just one dish during her meals up until now. Kalen, on the other hand, keeps drinking what looks like alcohol to Mary. She points out to Kalen that he shouldn't start a meal by drinking alcohol. Kalen remains cold and unresponsive, which makes Mary shiver as she wonders if her father will kill her for saying that. However, Kalen sets his drink down and questions Mary about what he should start with instead. Mary, concerned, finds it odd that an adult doesn't even know where to begin with a meal. Determined to teach him the basics, she tells him that the first thing he needs to do is say, "Thank you for the meal," emphasizing that it's important to express gratitude to those who made the meal. The chef and other workers are visibly terrified as Mary speaks, but Kalen accepts her advice and thanks them for the meal. Relieved, Mary guesses that he won't kill her for this after all and decides to take things a step further. Feeling a sudden burst of confidence, the spirit of a daycare teacher seems to awaken within Mary as she excitedly corrects him, saying that it's not thanks for the meal, but thank you for the meal. Kalen frowns at this, and Mary, unfazed, points out that she can make a sad face too and frowns right back at him. The workers are visibly even more terrified, but Kalen eventually remarks, "Thank you for the meal," this time properly. Turning to Mary, he sturdily asks if she's happy now. Mary laughs, thinking it would have been better if he hadn't added that last remark. As Mary eats, Kalen suddenly questions if Yuri taught her how to use a knife. Mary replies that she taught herself, explaining that her mom was sick, so it was important not to overexert her. Dahlia used to help Mary eat, but on the days when she gathered firewood, Mary had to eat alone. Hearing this, the workers start crying, which suddenly changes the mood. Kalen reaches for his wine again, but Mary turns to him, remarking that it looks like his steak is getting cold. Kalen flinches and reluctantly goes back to eating his steak. From that point on, Kalen and Mary start eating together, but Mary wonders if it's only because she told him his steak was getting cold. She notices that while Kalen is eating meat, he's not touching any vegetables. Feeling exasperated, Mary tells him that her mom taught her not to be picky about food. For every piece of meat, she was told to eat 3 pieces of vegetables. Kalen follows her instructions, and Mary marvels at how challenging it is to feed an adult. On top of everything, he still doesn't touch his broccoli. Kalen then asks Mary if he has to say, "Thank you for the meal," after finishing his food. Oh my God, this man is so cute. Mary finds this endearing, tells him that he does have to say it. Kalen notes that at least he got one thing right. The workers start clapping, and Dante remarks that Kalen got the answer right for the first time. The chef is visibly excited that Kalen took 5 bites of the meal he prepared, and the maids cheer for Mary. Coldly, Kalen tells everyone to shut up, and the mood quickly becomes gloomy. Mary also wishes she could change her father's threatening tone, which makes everyone feel like he wants to kill them. However, she's sure she'll get into trouble if she says anything about it. Dinner passes like this, with Kalen refraining from drinking any more wine. Later, Dante approaches Mary and informs her that the maids will help her take a bath. He adds that if she needs anything else, she should tell him, and if she wants something, she can pull the cord, and he'll come right away. If seeing him makes her uncomfortable, he'll send the maids instead. Mary, excited, assures him that she's not uncomfortable and promises to pull the cord if needed. Dante kneels down and praises her, reluctantly pointing out that he knows this place must feel unfamiliar to her. There's a brief silence before Mary replies softly. Dante tells her that she's handling everything very naturally despite the circumstances. He explains that Kalen has been looking for Mary and Yuri for a long time, but the reason why he hasn't come around, he likely feels sorry and thinks he can't be forgiven. Dante asks Mary to wait just a little longer, reassuring her that Kalen isn't as bad as he seems. In the novel, Dante sacrifices his life to save Kalen, which shows how much Kalen trusts him and how loyal Dante is. Mary wants to tell Dawn to protect her father if the temple discovers she's a witch and tries to kill her. But instead, she says, "It's all right." Dante thanks her and wishes her a good night, and Mary wishes him the same. After Dante leaves, the maids come to help Mary with her bath. At first, it was really awkward for her. Mary initially insists on taking off her clothes herself, but the maids reassure her that her clothes won't be damaged. They ask again if they can assist her. Their thoughtfulness puts Mary at ease. Unlike Dahlia, the maids here are very gentle and considerate while helping her bathe. Bathing with Dahlia used to feel like being in a Korean bathhouse. After her bath, Mary recalls how Dahlia and her mother used to kiss her goodnight. Before she can think more about it, she hears a crash. Confused and worried, she wonders what happened and knows the sound came from the next room. She opens the door, concerned for her father, only to find the room filled with wine bottles and Kalen sitting drunk in his chair. Alarmed, Mary gets worried as what's going on and ponders if all of these are liquor bottles. Mary wonders if her father drinks like this every day, looking for her and her mother while killing people. When Mary first met him, he smelled of blood instead of wine. She grabs one of the bottles, wondering if there's an alcohol that doesn't reek. It seems like Kalen is far more broken than she initially thought. People say Mary is safe for now since the temple doesn't seem to know about her existence, but she wonders how long that safety will last. Mary knows she'll have to confront the temple eventually, and she must hurry to help her father return to his normal state. As Mary meditates, she hears a scratching sound at the window. The guardian, now in cat form, is trying to get inside. Scolding him, Mary reminds him that earlier he was no help to her, and now he wants to come in. Despite her words, she lets him inside, admitting she's glad he came because she wanted to talk. Mary addresses him as the ancient witch guardian, but he interrupts, saying she doesn't need to use such a long phrase. Mary wonders what she should call him, and the guardian suggests she decide on a name that only the two of them will know. Surprised, Mary asks if it will really just be between the two of them. The guardian explains that it's customary. He did the same with his previous witch. Mary exclaims, "Previous witch?" Clarifying it's not like she thinks he had an ex-girlfriend. The guardian chuckles, asking if Mary thinks this is his first time in the world. Amused, she learns that he has been protecting all the witches who have ever called on him. The guardian responds with a cryptic yes and no, explaining that while he is himself, he's also part of a greater whole. When he disappears, his memories will pass to the next guardian. From the beginning, guardians were created by the energy of nature coming together. The guardian notes that Mary seems to already know this. Nervously, she admits it feels like she's heard it somewhere before, secretly thinking of how she read about it in a novel. Curious, Mary asks how long it has been since he last met a witch. The guardian replies that it's been about 300 years. This shocks Mary, and he adds that there was a time when he wasn't called for 500 years. Mary recalls reading in the novel that some witches died without ever knowing about their guardian. The guardian asks what Mary will name him now. Excitedly, she claps her hands and suggests Night. The guardian isn't impressed. She tries Dawn, but he finds it mediocre as well. Finally, Mary suggests Star, reasoning that it's cool since stars rise at night. However, the guardian feels a chill and rejects that too, proving fussier than Mary expected. After much thought, Mary offers the name Kun. The guardian silently considers it, and Mary eagerly asks if it sounds like a warrior's name. To her delight, the guardian likes it. From that moment, Mary decides to call him Kun, and the guardian, now named, becomes excited about his new identity. Mary gets back to what she was saying earlier. She explains that she called him to help save her mother and to protect herself. Sharing her thoughts, she tells Kun about the hostile relationship between the temple and witches, the reasons why she and her mother had to run away, and much more. Kun scoffs at the idea of the temple being a threat, calling them ridiculous and doubting their strength. Mary agrees, saying that's why she wants to awaken her powers without getting caught. Kun asks if she expects him to help her awaken her powers, and Mary confidently says yes. She reminds him that guardians are supposed to protect and strengthen witches. Kun flicks his tail, considering her request. Mary argues that once she becomes stronger, she will stop the temple's hunts, which would benefit Kun too, as witches would flourish again. Closing her eyes, she wishes for him to say yes. After a pause, Kun agrees, remarking that it's likely no coincidence Mary managed to call him despite being so young and small. Mary plops onto her bed, thanking him. Kun moves around her in laps and asks why she doesn't just ask her father for help if she needs power, pointing out that she's too young to handle things alone. Mary ponders this deeply, recalling how she always felt the age gap between herself and her mother, even when her mother was around. Rising from her bed, she declares that she has to do this herself. Kun is impressed by her determination, but insists she needs to rest since her eyes are half closed. He pats her gently, telling her it's time for little ones to sleep. Mary admits it's been a long day, especially after traveling in the carriage for so long. Kun encourages her to rest, promising they'll talk more later. Mary states then they will talk later after getting some sleep. As Mary closes her eyes, she ponders if it's because she wished to dream of her mother as in her dream she sees the first time she and her mother arrived in the northern lands. It was warm and abundant, with summer in full swing. The next morning, Mary wakes up and calls for her mother. There's a knock on the door, and a maid enters, asking if Mary is awake. 3 maids introduce themselves. Pin, who says Mary can call her Pin, and twins Lucy and Luna, who introduce themselves as each other's twin. Whenever Mary tires to get ready on her own, the maids insist on helping Mary get ready, practically begging with tears in her eyes, so in the end, Mary couldn't ignore their tears and reluctantly agrees. While dressing, Mary asks Pin how her father is doing, worried about the number of bottles he drank the previous night. Pin informs her that he left for work early in the morning and will return in the evening with Dante. Pin adds that she'll be sure to tell Dante that Mary asked about her father. Mary brushes it off, thinking her father doesn't care much for her. Yet inwardly, she worries about his ability to work after drinking so heavily and wonders if it's because he's the male lead. Pin, however, remains concerned about Mary and resolves to tell Dante about her worries. The chaotic morning finally comes to an end. Looking out the window, Mary decides to visit the garden because she knows she will get bored as there was still a lot of time until dinner. Suddenly, Kalen enters her room, surprising Mary since there's still a lot of time left before dinner. Confused by his early return, she covers her nose, noticing a stench. Kalen asks what's wrong, and Mary hesitates before calling him Dad. She finally blurts out that he smells like blood. Kalen walks past Mary without saying a word, leaving her to wonder if she had been too blunt. Dante attempts to cover for him, explaining that Kalen has a lot of work, but Mary reassures him that she doesn't mind. However, she can't help but notice that Kalen doesn't smell like alcohol this time. Later, Mary waves at Kun, telling she is under a tree. The creature shifts into his crow form, then into a cat, and jumps to the ground. Mary questions him about what he did while she was sleeping. Kun casually responds that he had been flying around the empire, commenting on how vast it is. Mary is shocked to learn that he flew around the entire empire in just one day, but Kun doesn't answer her question. Instead, he asks her if something happened to her. Mary, puzzled, Kun places his paw on her face and asks why she looks so upset. Mary admits that she feels she acted rudely in front of her father. She explains that she told him he smelled like blood, and it was so overpowering that she couldn't help herself. Kun remarks that Kalen smells like herbs too, which confuses Mary. She questions what he means, and Kun clarifies that the herbal scent is so strong that it bothers his sense of smell. Mary hadn't noticed the herbal scent before and begins to wonder if she might have been injured without realizing it. She starts to worry, thinking that perhaps since she survived, the story is deviating from its original course. Concerned, she wonders if her father is drinking even though he is unwell. Meanwhile, Kalen observes Mary through his window. He asks Dante if 6-year-olds tend to play by themselves. Dante responds that children Mary's age usually have friends, and in some cases, their mothers organize tea parties for them. However, seeing Mary shouting at the cat, Dan suggests that Mary seems to have already made a friend. He then remarks that Kalen has looked after Mary for a long time and considers it fortunate that she's alive. He urges Kalen to embrace her, but Kalen cuts him off, narrowing his eyes and reminding Dante that he failed to protect her. Kalen reflects on the day's events, admitting that he took someone's life partly for revenge for Yuri and partly to vent his anger. Kalen begins to think Dante might be right. As Mary's father, his priority should be to embrace her. However, the memory of Mary telling him he smelled like blood flashes in his mind, making him doubt himself. Saddened, Kalen wonders if he is unworthy of being her father since he couldn't even protect her mother. The scene shifts back to Kun, who points out that Mary's mana is very small, comparing it to snot or something even smaller. Mary, flustered, questions if it's really that small. She asks if her mana will increase if she tries to release it, but Kun mocks her, warning that she might end her life at the age of 6 if she attempts it. He explains that only with the help of a witch can she increase her mana quickly and effectively without side effects. Mary huffs in frustration, realizing that after finding her guardian, she now also has to find a witch. Later, Pin informs Mary that His Grace has no plans to eat dinner tonight. Apologizing, Pin adds that Mary will have to eat alone. Worried, Mary notes that her father hasn't eaten much today, but Pin assures her that since Dante is with him, he must have eaten something. Mary wonders if her father is still upset with her. She thinks about what she should do in situations like this, but feels lost since she never had a father before. Determined, she decides to take some food to him and ask him to eat with her. Mary asks the chef what her father likes, suggesting beef soup. The chef replies that His Grace doesn't have a favorite food and barely eats enough to fill his stomach. Mary gets really worried and decides to go to see her dad right away. Mary quickly gathers a basket of food and heads to his room. She knocks on the door, but there's no response. She wonders if he's still upset with her or if he's in the bathroom. Unsure of what to do, she decides to leave the food outside his door, hoping he'll see it and will know that she came to see him. Inside, Kalen is taking a hot shower. A maid outside the room comments on the lack of hot water, saying they barely managed to bring cold water, let alone hot. Kalen, having moved away from Mary's room, continues his shower. The maid wonders what in the world he's trying to accomplish. Once cleaned up, Kalen heads to Mary's room. As he approaches, the memory of her telling him he smelled like blood comes to mind, and he clenches his fist in frustration. Inside her room, Mary whimpers about how hard it is to see her father. Kun teases her, asking why she doesn't just go to his room, as he saw him heading there earlier. Mary jumps up, questioning when this happened. Licking his paw, Kun casually responds, "Just now." Mary bursts out of her room to find her father. Outside, she encounters Dante, who questions why she isn't in bed. Mary asks if her father is in his room, and Dante replies that his grace is likely in his office. He points to the large door at the end of the hallway. Thanking him, Mary hurries to the office. Entering the office, Mary notices that it looks cleaner than her father's bedroom, though it still has a bottle of liquor on the table. She sees a glass with leftover alcohol and decides to get rid of it before her father drinks it. As she moves the bottle, it almost slips from her hands, soaking her clothes. She sniffs the liquid, noting that it smells like herbs. Confused, she wonders why it stinks and why her tongue feels numb. Suddenly, Kalen appears behind her, grabbing her wrist. Startled, Mary calls out, "Dad." He sternly asks what she's doing there. Mary plans to act as if she doesn't know what's going on. Kalen looks at her, and Mary tries to brush it off, saying it's nothing. Kalen, however, wonders if she is really all right. She doesn't open her mouth, making Kalen question again if she is truly okay. She tries to explain that her tongue feels stiff, but her speech is unclear. Kalen grabs his hair in frustration. Meanwhile, Mary is done contemplating what to do. She finds herself unable to close her mouth, her tongue feeling numb, much like after a visit to the dentist. Kalen's leg accidentally touches a liquor bottle on the floor. He glances at it suspiciously. In her garbled and barely understandable tone, Mary apologizes and nervously asks if her dad is mad at her. Kalen, exasperated, grabs her with one hand, telling her to stop talking. He orders Dan to fetch Hild immediately. Hild, the physician of the Discard's manor, arrives promptly and examines Mary. He asks if she can move her tongue for him. After a thorough check, he concludes that there are no major issues for the time being and assures them that he will prepare an antidote right away. As Hild works, he questions if Mary truly drank the entire bottle of liquor. Kalen confirms this, but Mary internally screams in protest, knowing that she only had a drop on her tongue. Hild mentions that since Mary is young, adjusting the antidote dosage might cause her discomfort for about a week. Mary flinches in disagreement, her frustration evident. The maids nearby stifle their laughter, though they quickly excuse themselves, leaving the room. Mary can still tell that they are holding back their amusement. She then turns to Kalen, wondering if he plans to leave, but instead, Kalen calmly prompts her to sleep. Mary is bewildered, thinking there's no way he's going to stay there until she falls asleep. His intense stares are stressing her out, but she decides to close her eyes and try to rest for now. Eventually, Mary falls asleep soundly, while Kalen remains standing there. The next morning, Mary's condition remains the same. She is horrified to realize she now has to speak like a baby. Kun, noticing her frustration, explains that what she consumed was a potion containing paralysis herbs. He questions why she drank it, especially since the strong herbal smell was enough to make his nose sting. He remarks that the potion is powerful enough to dull someone's mind, but since Mary is young, her reaction included physical symptoms as well. Kun continues, noting that witches were known to create such potions and sell them to people suffering from great mental distress. The phrase great mental distress makes Mary flinch. She hesitantly asks if the potion was truly made by witches. Kun confirms this, leaving Mary confused. She wonders aloud how a doctor like Hild could create an antidote for a potion crafted by witches. Mary's thoughts deepen as she questions Hild's true identity. Kun then reveals that the previous night, while wandering near the manor, he noticed something strange. Mary demands to know what it was, growing angry that he is only mentioning it now. Kun, unfazed, replies that it didn't seem dangerous, so he threw it away just in case. Mary sighs, thanking him, but firmly instructs him to show her such things in the future. As Mary ponders the situation, she clenches her fists, determined to uncover the truth. There are too many mysteries surrounding the events at the manor, and Mary resolves to find out Hild's true identity. Mary is about to open her door and get out when she sees a giant guard standing at her door. He only says no to her, causing her to scream in shock, asking how the hell he is here now. She asks him why he is here and why he is carrying a giant sword. The knight says that she can't leave the room until she feels better, as this was Kalen's order. After that, she is confined to her room for a week. No matter how much she acts cute to coax the guard to let her go, like a fortress, the giant and his sword don't budge. A week goes by that way, and finally her confinement is over. Then Dant formally introduces the haunting man to Mary. He says that he will be escorting her to places from now on. The giant man introduces himself as Aaron. Mary assures them that she is fine without having an escort. Dante assures her that it might be uncomfortable in the start, but she will get comfortable with it soon. However, Mary knows that she really needs to increase her mana and check where Dr. Hild got the recipe for the antidote, but she won't be able to move freely if a knight is following her. Judging from this incident, it is confirmed that her dad is pretty stubborn. Aaron puts his hand towards her and says to call him Aaron from now on, and promises to risk his life for her safety. She reaches for his hand, which makes her realize that his hands are pretty big, and maybe that's the reason why he carries a big sword. She wonders if Kalen's hands are this big too, because now that she thinks about it, she doesn't think she has ever held her dad's hand. She is lost thinking about how big his hands might be, and then decides to get back to what she has to do. Aaron asks her what she is planning to do. She replies that she needs to meet Hild, as she plans to thank him and ask for the recipe. Aaron asks if she is talking about the green-haired doctor. He informs her that this morning he saw him carrying the bag he uses for house calls. She taps him and says that if that's the case, they need to hurry up. But Pin tells Mary that Dr. Hild has packed his suitcase and left for house calls, and that he will be away for a few days. Pin then asks her why she is looking for Hild. Mary says that she just wants to thank him. Pin gets in tears seeing Mary acting so mature. Mary then asks her about Kalen. Pin informs her that her dad won't go out today and said that he will be working in his office and will even have dinner with her. Hearing this, Mary can only think if the sun has risen from the west today. Mary says that she is looking forward to eating with her dad today. Mary says that she will go out now so she can play a lot and eat a lot later. Pin says that in the meantime, she will prepare a lot of desserts for her master. In the garden, Mary calls for Kun. Kun comes out of the bushes, asking about Aaron. Mary tells Kun that she has left home far away and said to them that she will be playing in the garden, so they don't have to wait for her. She then asks Kun what she has in her mouth. Kun says that it's a precious herb and that Mary should eat it. It smells so weird that Mary wonders if Kun really expects her to eat it. Kun insists that it will increase Mary's mana and even help her unlock her new ability. Mary doesn't want to eat it, but right after she does, she pukes. Kun scolds her for spitting it out, since it was a really precious herb. Mary wonders how anyone could even eat something like that. As she is talking with Kun, she suddenly sees a light, but she vomits again. Now she sits with Kun and tells her about the light she saw, wondering if she was able to see her mana. But the light disappears the moment she vomits. Kun stretches, saying that how can Mary see something when Kun herself was not able to see anything? Mary has nothing to say but insists that she did see it. She thinks that it must be mana, as it was not a halo but more like a human shape. She decides to look into it later. Kun makes Mary freeze when she says that she will keep delivering her that herb because it is good for her health and growth. Mary feels like she will really have to eat it again, and just thinking about it makes her feel like vomiting. Kun mentions that eating it just once won't be beneficial, and that even eating it 100 times might not be enough if Mary truly wants to activate her inner witch powers. Later that night, Mary is seen at the dining table filled with a lot of food. She is really glad to see Kalen at the dining table too, and even the food is delicious. The chef says to Mary that he has heard she has been feeling well, and that's why he has prepared a generous amount of food for her. She thanks him and then wonders what she should eat first. Kalen questions if she wants friends, which makes her think that she has never had friends in this life. If she makes new friends and they find out she is a witch, she is sure they will burn her to death, so she tells Kalen that she doesn't really need friends. He then asks her about having a pet. She says no to this too. Kalen tells her then not to pick and eat things from the ground. Mary can't believe he knows that she ate that herb. She wonders if this is because he is worried about her or if he doesn't want to be bothered. But again she thinks that she is doing all this to save him. Kalen asks for her response, and Mary replies that she won't eat things from the ground. She gets a little pissed, thinking she is not his puppet, and that forcing a child will only make them more rebellious. She then asks Don if he didn't have dinner. Dante assures Mary that he always has his meal, so she doesn't have to worry about him. Mary tells Kalen that he should have a good dinner too. Kalen tells her that she can relax and that she doesn't have to be so formal with him. Mary doesn't understand why he is acting like this, but suddenly it feels nice to her. Yet it feels like the kind of pleasure one feels when they successfully make a child eat a vegetable they don't really like. She notices that even he is eating his food well and becomes hopeful that little by little their relationship might become better. She says to herself that it's okay, while noting that she and her dad might be able to get closer just like how she was with her mom. Recently, there has been a lot of changes happening at the Descartes manor. The suffocating silence of the employees has begun to lift, and they have started laughing, making the environment really good and allowing changes to slowly start happening. After Mary comes to the manor, having been observed for a few days, the employees start to think that she might be a much stronger person than they had assumed. If she wasn't, she would have resented her father for not holding her hand. They wonder what made her so strong, and yet they can't even guess it. Still, they fear that she might be quietly dealing with her own scars. Kalen tells Mary that he doesn't really have a favorite food. Mary can't believe it because she really likes candies and lots of food, and her absolute favorite is chocolate cake, which she says tastes even better if strawberries are placed on top. This makes the servants even happier and more shocked when they see Kalen grin. From that day, Kalen started thinking of strawberries on top of chocolate cake every time someone brings him dessert. It is as if it has become his favorite too. At the temple, someone comes and says that they have something to report. The head asks if it's about the issuing stone detection. The reporter, calling him Ludal, says yes. He informs Ludal that it was recently confirmed that the detection stone they had placed at Descartes Manor was moved near the Humvile border area in just one day. They even looked around to see if there were any witches, but they couldn't find any. Priest Ludal praises Raphael for his good work. The mana detection seal would detect a witch's magic as soon as she touched it. If someone is able to move such a mana stone to a distant place in just one day, she must be a witch with enormous power. They consider capturing and offering her to the temple. But what bothers Ludal is that the stone was found near the Humvile accommodation border. All powers, including witch magic power, if the stone crossed the border, would no longer allow them to proceed with a witch hunt. Ludal smiles as he wonders what they should do next. Meanwhile, on the other side, Mary feels that her body is stuffy and wishes that someone could see her. She begs for somebody to look at her. It turns out to be a dream, and she jolts awake from it. Pin, standing by her side, says that it is not good for her to sleep like this for so long on an empty stomach. Mary again starts to speak like a baby, getting flustered about why she is speaking like this again. Pin gives her water to drink. As Pin brushes her hair, she says she is glad that Mary is able to speak like a normal girl. She adds that it would be better to tell this to Dr. Hild once he comes back. However, Mary thinks that the clothes her mom made for her have become a little short. She thinks that quite some time has passed since she slipped into this novel, but at least the main flow of the story hasn't changed. That is because the temple remains extremely obsessed with Kalen, just like in the novel. They will continue to circle around him, and when an opportunity arrives, they will push Kalen, who will have committed a crime he can't handle, under their wings. But that will ultimately lead to their demise. For now, she has asked Kun to keep a lookout for any ultimate danger signs, so things are fine for now. But again, the temple has the Emperor in their hands too, and she gets angry, wondering why they are trying to covet her dad. She knows she can't just let it happen like this. She turns to Pin, saying that she needs to go out and play. Pin asks if she should go with her, but Mary rejects her offer, saying Aaron will be with her. Mary feels sorry for Pin, but one person watching over her is enough. As she goes outside, Aaron asks her if she slept well and greets her with a good morning. She thinks to herself that he looks like a handsome man straight from a fairy tale. Aaron says to her that she also looks like a cute and strong fairy princess straight from the moon. Mary tells Aaron that she wants to climb to a high place today. Aaron picks her up. It feels really high, and now Mary understands why kids like it when adults pick them up. Aaron asks Mary if she is pleased with this much height. Mary says that it is indeed high, but that she needs to go somewhere even higher. In the forest, he takes her to the annex balcony, telling her that this is the place where they can see the enemy at the border. Looking down from here, Mary feels like a giant in a book she read a long time ago. In that book, the giant people were muscular. Mary asks Aaron if he knows anything about giants. Aaron replies that his mother is a descendant of a giant and that he is also a quarter giant. He adds that this is the scenery he is only showing to her. Mary has heard that giants have started to disappear after the temple began making their moves. She happily says to Aaron that his secret is safe with her. Aaron, however, adds that she doesn't have to hide it, since he is her bodyguard and her life is his life. Mary gets shocked, wondering how he can say something so scary. She is really in shock and decides to just pretend not to have heard it. She decides to calm down and think about it for a moment. In the novel, it is said that if a descendant of a giant were to possess the sacred relics of an ancient giant, they could gain great power, even if just a little bit. Aaron is still a descendant. She wonders if she should really have him by her side as insurance. She asks him to promise her that from now on, since he is a great giant, he will always be her bodyguard. Aaron gets on his knees and says that he will be her lifetime bodyguard. Mary thinks to herself that he might become a great hero for her later. Suddenly, Kun, in the form of a crow, asks Mary what she is doing there and tells her she should come down, as it is boring and dangerous. She hurriedly says to Aaron that she feels like playing down there. He asks her where she would like to go, and she replies, "In the garden that looks like a forest." She glances back and sighs. She is glad that Aaron lets her move freely as long as she stayed within his sight. But now she is really sad that Kun has really brought the herd once again. Kun emphasizes that eating this will be good for her, but it is literally really bitter. She then eats the candies and asks Kun if she thinks there is a way to get Dr. Hild to make good medicine. Kun says that he doesn't seem like he has the best personality, but Mary really needs him. It might be worth it. She replies that having someone who is special in herbs and medicine would be beneficial for the future. She adds that she also wants him to reduce the paralysis medicine he gives to Kalen, as according to Kun, if one drinks too much of it, it will reduce their emotions to numbness. She again wonders how someone can make that potion in such large quantities. She wonders if Dr. Hild is a witch too. Kun replies that there are no men among the witches. However, if he is that good at handling herbs, there is a high probability that he has a witch in his family. He adds that even though effective potion-making techniques are practiced among ordinary people, he must have learned a lot by assisting a witch, and considering his hair color, he must belong to House Hashut or House Deem. Kun asks Mary whose hair color she takes after. Mary says her mom. Kun says that's right, as witch blood is thicker. Mary thinks and gets excited, saying they only need to find the witch among those two families who have practiced potion making. But again, she freezes as Kun mentions that both families are so good at potion making, it's impossible to tell which family is superior. Even their skills and appearances are similar, so they have a rival-like relationship. Mary gets all gloomy, wondering what they should do now. Kun suggests she follow her instincts and pick one. But again, she feels like Hild will hate her if she picks the wrong one. Kun emphasizes that even if she gets it wrong, she will eventually be able to see which family he actually belongs to. Mary gets down and says that she doesn't know, and she will just cling to him and annoy him. She laughs, saying she has never seen a witch like herself in her life. She explains that most witches take pride in becoming strong and solving their problems on their own, so they don't usually ask for help. But Mary feels that she doesn't even really know her powers yet. The only reason she is convinced she is a witch is because that's what it said in the novel. The more she listens to Kun, the less she feels like she is a witch. Kun, seeing her looking like this, consoles her, saying that she is already strong, but she just needs to work harder to become stronger. Besides that, she is quite smart for her age. Mary knows that she is doing this all to make her feel better. Mary gets hopeful. She gets up, saying that she just needs to wait and see. She will grow up and soon become the most powerful adult. Kun praises her, saying that she even took the giant oath today, so she was quite productive today. Mary asks him how she knows about that. Kun replies that she was flying over them. Mary suddenly flinches when she sees Dr. Hild. However, at the other side, Kalen says that at this meeting with the vassals, he will announce Mary as his official successor. Dante gets really shocked to hear this news, only he knows that how hard he has tried to reach this moment. All the efforts he has put for Mary are now blooming. The vassals of House Discard had such big pride, with their noses high in the air, that they didn't acknowledge Lady Yuri as the Duchess, since she was the daughter of a baron. As soon as the news of Lady Yuri's disappearance came, they offered their children for adoption, which created a huge headache for Kalen. Dante says that since Mary has come back, this is how things will go now, as the vassals have forgotten their places and are running wild, especially Viscount Rohel. But Kalen gives no response. Dante calls him again, which makes him jolt. Kalen asks him if he has found any kind of connection. Dante replies that if he is asking about the temple, they are currently tracking it, but it was quite amazing. He adds that Kalen had searched for it across the Empire for years, but it was impossible to track. Now the tracks are clearly visible, as if the fog is being cleared. He says that the temple tracks are almost identical to Lady Yuri's. Dante points out that what he is trying to say is that Kalen's suspicion might be correct. Kalen remembers that Mary had told him that her mom didn't want the temple blessing. Kalen thinks that it's obvious because even Mary said that back then. He thinks about how hard he searched for her, searched everywhere like a madman, for the child Yuri left behind. He thinks that Mary runs to him because she doesn't know anything yet, but after she grows up and learns everything, she will resent him. If that time comes, he plans to hand her everything so she doesn't fall apart. Dandy says to Kalen that he will inform him if something new comes up. He then asks what they should do about the temple matter. Kalen replies to decline it. He knows that the reason they want to come here instead of letting him go there is because they want to confirm the existence of Mary. Dan bows, saying he will do as ordered. He adds that Mary's banquet will be held soon too. He suggests that maybe they could introduce her to society that day, as there would surely be many children around her age at the capital. Seeing Kalen's looming face, Dandy says that it looks like he was being delusional and tells him to forget what he just said. Kalen orders Dan to find out more about House Dilton's members. This makes Dante flinch. 5 years ago, he got the same orders to look for Yuri's family members. The search stopped for a while after Yuri's disappearance, but now he wonders that maybe Kalen is doing this again for Mary's family. Aaron is talking to Mary somewhere while she is feeling sad because she missed tomorrow's opportunity to see Dr. Heartless. She thinks that as soon as she saw him, she should have chased him. But he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Even if she lost him, she can't believe that even Kun missed it. She notices Dante and Kalen together inside the manor. She dashes to Kalen, calling him Dad. He says yes, which almost makes her choke to see his short answer. She amuses aloud if he might say hi to her too. Again, with the same expression, he says hello to her. She grabs him and asks if he didn't drink that stuff again, because if he did, he would get sick. He pats her and with a grin says that he didn't drink it. She can't believe that he just answers her with a smile. She wonders if his feelings came back after he cut down on that paralyzing herb. She says to him excitedly that he did a good job, while she gets distracted by Dante, who weeps as he is too touched to stop himself from crying. Mary says to Kalen that she will go out and play with Aaron. Aaron picks her up, and she deliberately says that Aaron is so high and he is the best. The words start to ring in Kalen's ears. She says to them that she will be back, while Kalen is all gloomed over her calling Aaron the best. Now in the garden, she asks how this place is, as there are plenty of trees around them too. Kun asks her how she managed to find such a place. She replies that she found it yesterday while chasing Dr. Hild, and who knows, while they are here, they might even run into Dr. Hild. Now that they have found a suitable place, she decides to practice magic. She gets all disgusted as Kun mentions that she also brought a lot of herbs and that they should start. Mary's training begins. First is meditation, then comes finding pressure points, and last is eating herbs. She gets all tired and lays down on the ground, wanting to end the meeting for today and go back inside. Mary overexerts herself, and she didn't have any strength left. Kun says to her to watch out for the stone, but it is too late. She stumbles upon the stone and hurts her butt. She gets up, wondering what the sound was and where it is coming from. She then notices that Kun is not around her. She notices a boy crying. She goes to him, asking what is wrong and why he is here alone. The boy asks her who she is. Mary notices his golden eyes and wonders if this is the first fairy. She stays at a distance, asking if this much space will be enough. The boy says that this much will be good. She finds him really cute, how he is replying to her even though he is crying. She points out, telling him that she lives there, and asks him where he lives. He says that he lives in a castle. She is confused what castle? He gets flustered as he says that it is just a castle. Mary then stutters, trying to clear his tears with a handkerchief, but he nods away, saying that he doesn't want it. He gets teary as he explains that he is a monster, so she shouldn't get in touch with him or she will get hurt too. Now that she thinks about it, this is Kalen's private property, so she wonders how this boy got here. But to her, instead of a monster, he looks more like a fairy. Even his expression looks like a lost puppy. Her mom once read her about a fairy tale regarding spirits, but since legends are real in this world, what she read must not be just a fairy tale. So there is a high probability that he is a fairy, and if she helps him find his way back home, maybe then she will receive a reward or a gift. She asks him if he is a fairy that got lost. The boy replies that he is not a fairy, but he is a monster, and if she comes in contact with him, she will get hurt. Mary throws the handkerchief, saying that this way they won't come in contact, and tells him that he can have it since she has a lot of them. He gets all teary and takes it, starting to rub it against his face. Mary gets close to him, worried, as she points out that he doesn't have to rub it that much. The boy flinches seeing her touching him, but she assures him that she won't tell anyone that they came in contact and says that she is a witch, so this makes both of them monsters. The boy says that she must be lying. Mary reasons that then he must be lying too. He replies no. She tells him her name and asks for his. He tells her that it's Armen. Mary finds him really shy and wonders if this is a special characteristic of fairies. She finds his name really pretty. It sounds really pretty to her. She asks if she can call him Armen. Armen nods that she may. She finally asks him why he is here all alone. He is hesitant as he replies that he doesn't know. Covering his face in his hands, he says that ever since he feels like running, he comes to this place, even though he knows that his master hates him for breaking his promise to him. She asks him who is his master. Armen says that it is Held. Mary hurriedly asks him if he is talking about Dr. Hild with green hair and glasses. Armen says yes. Mary asks him if Hild told him about this place and how he got in here. Armen tells her that he uses an object that Hild gave him. She asks if he really uses an item that Hild gave him. Suddenly, Armen gasps and says that he will have to go now. He gets teary as he says he is being forced again. Mary grabs him, asking if he is fine. He hesitantly asks her if he can come here again. She nods that he can come here again, and if he wants, she can come here to him too. He nods but says no. Mary asks him if he doesn't want her to come to him. He replies that this is not what he meant. She notices that he is just copying his movements no matter what the answer is. She laughs and thinks that in times like this, she needs to clarify things for him since he is still older. She states to him that if he promises not to cry anymore, she will come to him again. She turns, asking how that sounds. Armen gets happy and says that he would do this. She sees that his body starts to disappear and he vanishes. Now that she thinks about it, she understands that there is no way that Dr. Hild would have accepted a fairy as his apprentice. Kun goes to Mary from behind, saying that she was surprised to see her disappear and also that the energy around her is suspicious. Mary says to Kun if she saw the kid she was talking to, a boy that looked like a fairy. She adds that he had golden eyes and golden hair. Kun replies that she couldn't see him, not even Mary, and that she suddenly appeared. Kun wonders if this is because of the very ancient energy she felt here. Mary thinks that if it's magic or ancient energy, there is no way Kun didn't notice it, or maybe it is related to the object that Hild has given to Armen. She sighs, thinking that it might be good to have an ability to disappear completely. Kun says to Mary that her hand is disappearing. She gets shocked, so after a lot of checking around the place, Kun finds out that there is a place where one can hide it as magic. Mary questions Kun if she thinks that this might also be related to the stone that Dr. Hild has given to Armen. She asks if one can use witch time even if they are not a witch. Kun says that if they have permission from the person whose time they are using, it is possible. Kun says to her that she heard her aunties calling for her. Mary starts to run. As she catches her breath, she thinks that it's almost time for her lunch. She notices Kalen and Dante from outside the window and ponders if she should call him for lunch. She tries to reach for the window, but it is all in vain. Kun brings out a box and suggests she try using it. Mary calls Kalen and starts to wave her hands at them. Dante opens the window. She asks him about Kalen. Kalen was standing nearby as he asks her why she is there. She happily replies that she is here to meet him. He grins, saying that she could have come from the hallway. She mentions that she knows, but this way she would be able to see him more quickly. She asks if he is going to have lunch. He says to her that if she wants to have lunch, she can come inside. She gets excited if he is really planning to eat lunch with her. He says yes. She states that she will come inside in a minute. She gets down and says to Kun that she will be going now. She starts to rush before he changes his mind. She plans to try her best until his emotions come back. She is about to reach the front office where she sees Dante and Kalen already staring, waiting for her. She almost stumbles over a rock in her way, and yes, she does fall on the ground. She thinks that all her aura has become zero and her butt still hurts from earlier. She notices that Kalen picks her up, but she was hurting. She bruised her leg. Dante, all worried, rushes inside to fetch her medicine. She doesn't know what to do and feels like it is going to hurt every time she walks now. Kalen says this will be okay, and he picks her up. She can't believe if this is really her dad or maybe Aaron disguised as her dad. She says to him that she really likes it. She really likes her dad. Kalen takes Mary inside. Seeing her like this, In rushes to her, asking if she is hurt. Mary tells her that she scraped her leg. All the maids start to panic, seeing that Mary is hurt. Dante also brings the first aid kit, while all the servants look gloomy. Mary can't believe they are making such a fuss over this. She just scraped her leg a little. She asks Dante if the medicine will hurt. He replies that it will only sting for a little while, but it's better to apply it. Mary finds the color of the ointment really strange. He scoops out a bunch of it and says that it will help prevent any scaring. She grabs Kalen's hand and says that she would like Pin to do it, as she thinks that applying this much medicine will hurt even more. Dante looks all gloomy as he tries to say that he is also good at applying the medicine. But Mary still insists on letting Pin apply it to her. Pin applies the medicine to Mary. Mary says to Pin that it burns. Pin explains that the biting sensation will go away soon and that she will apply it to her one more time and wipe it gently with a cloth. Mary is glad that it didn't hurt her all that much. Then, she suddenly notices all the servants looking really happy. Gen finally says that they are really happy to see the two of them holding hands. Mary looks down and realizes that she was still holding Kalen's fingers. She gets surprised, wondering how long she has been just holding him like that. All that was rather cute. She apologizes to Kalen as his finger turned all red from holding him so strongly.